Hey guys, welcome back to Xraised, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. I'm your host, Miles, and today we're taking a closer look at something the legal world has been quietly craving for a long time: clarity, speed, and research that doesn't eat up half your week. And we'll discuss this with our guest who doesn't just understand the law. She's been redefining how it's researched, argued, and won. She's a seasoned barrister with over 2 decades of courtroom experience, an accomplished author, and now a pioneer in legal tech through her company, MiAI Law. That's rethinking how lawyers access legal knowledge, delivering fast, evidence based answers through AI that actually understands how lawyers work. Her accolades include Female Barrister of the Year, Most Influential CEO in Legal Tech City, and if you've been in construction or maybe insurance law in Australia, chances are you've cited her work or had her on your side of a case. So today she's joining us again to talk about the future of litigation, one that's smarter, faster, and far more strategic, powered by AI that's built for lawyers by lawyers. So here's the co-founder and chief executive officer of My AI Law, Laina Chan. Hi, Lena. It's a pleasure having you back on X-Ray. So today we're exploring how litigation is being completely rewired through My AI Law, of course, with smart research, strategic clarity, and AI that's actually built by legal minds like yours. So could we start by telling us the exact pain point in litigation practice today that My AI Law is tackling? I mean, what were the traditional methods missing that your platform is finally solving?
It's solving how long it takes to unearth a relevant case for your for your for your case, a relevant judgment for your case.
Mm-hmm.
So normally, in the traditional way, you would do keyword searches
Yeah.
in any database, right? Whether it's LexisNexis or Thomson Reuters, you normally do it on both because both of them have different databases. Or whether you do it on Jade or Ostley or wherever you can't do it on Ostley because the search engine isn't good enough. But wherever you do, you have to do a keyword search, and you can try and narrow your search down by refining your keywords. But you would still get you might start with the engine returning a couple thousand authorities, and you keep narrowing it until maybe you would get 100 or 200 cases, and then you would have to go through them all individually to find your relevant cases. And it wouldn't identify necessarily, you're just looking for similar factual scenarios, and then you're looking buried in the case for the relevant rules and the relevant principles.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have solved, and only a lawyer can solve this. So anyone who tells you, who is not legally qualified, or who says that they can develop a system that can predict with any precision at all the likely outcome of a case, is
Mm-hmm.
just a fraud, because they can't do that. It's impossible, because even us lawyers are not going to, even though clients love it, they love you, they're always asking for a percentage chance of success. And we can't do it because there's just so many exigencies in litigation that we can't predict. We can't predict how a witness is going to perform in the box. We don't know what kind of surprises are going to come from the other side. We don't know what the judge is going to do. I mean, you can get a general idea. I mean, of course, there are some open and shut cases where it's very obvious. But when it gets complicated and there's lots of intricacies, the word you love, it's just impossible for the machine to predict. A human has to do that.
Mm-hmm. I
So
see.
what we have done, or what I have done, is that I have written all these legal algorithms which have reduced my legal reasoning, the legal reasoning that I use when I'm researching a case or when I'm working on a research publication, into an algorithm, into a code. And that has been then incorporated into our system architecture. And
Yeah.
so that we then do not just rely a lot upon a language model like ChatGPT, for example, to you ask it a question, and then ChatGPT goes out there into the wild, wild internet and kind of searches and finds you something and
Mm-hmm.
answers the question. And invariably that answer will rely upon what other law firms say. It's always secondary materials. It's never, well, sometimes it might be, but it always depends upon what a human being has said what the case means. It could be generally it's another law firm. But what we have done is, because I've reduced all the legal reasoning down into code and we've embedded into our system, and our system will go out and look at the most up-to-date legal database.
Yeah.
And then it will do the analysis, extract the relevant documents, and then my legal algorithms will go into action and it will find you the answer. They sound exactly like what ChatGPT does, but it's different because of what we are retrieving, how we are ranking the results that we're retrieving, and what we do with it.
Yeah. Well,
we analyze the cases so that we extract the relevant facts, we extract the arguments of both parties, we extract the reasoning, we extract the outcome, and then we extract the rules that the case is known for. And so we have that going on for every case that we look at. And so we're not just, it's not like just a stab in the dark. There's precise legal method that goes on so that MiAI can identify the most relevant cases for the question, and then it will identify the relevant rules that it has extracted from those cases that will apply to help you answer the question.
Well, that's a pretty big leap from just, having quick answers. That actually makes a lot of sense, because even from the outside looking in, you can tell the legal system in general still relies on a lot of manual heavy lifting, and MiAI Law making it quick and accurate, and it takes all the sound smart but might be wrong fluff out of AI and replaces it with something that can actually stand up in court.
But it's not, well, no, it's not such a big leap. It's not like you just do the research and suddenly you're ready for court. It doesn't work like that. Okay. It's just seeing all the grunt work so that it's helping you extract the relevant case. You still have to read the case, and the answers will tell you at which paragraphs the principles have come from and where the facts are. You still have to read the case. You cannot go to court just on the basis of any research answer, because it doesn't provide you with the depth that you need to be able to stand up in court and argue. And so in this week and last week, I've been working on an advice on whether a policy of insurance provides indemnity for a particular claim.
Okay.
Insurance coverage. And so I use MiAI Law to help me unearth the cases on point.
Okay.
And it unearthed the relevant principles. But this was a novel factual situation. There was no case out there. And I did the research, I checked, and I also asked Fred Hawke, who's like the god of insurance. And I said, I haven't been able to find a case on point exactly, like exactly the same factual scenario. And he goes, you're right, there isn't one. And so we had to go back to first principles. And then we had to, as a lawyer, I had found all the relevant cases, and Fred was very helpful. He pointed me to one that was a different factual scenario that I had read. Actually, I remembered the principles, but I couldn't remember the case, which was why I developed MiAI Law. And I said to Fred, I had read the case, I remembered the principles because I told you those were the principles. I couldn't remember the actual name of the case, which is the total reason as to why MiAI Law is in existence. And so then I had all the principles, and then I had to write the advice. But no AI can do that for you, because it's really intricate reasoning and your experience as to which argument you think is more likely to succeed than the other construction, which construction of the policy is more likely to succeed than the other. And that comes from experience. No AI can help you do that. You can ask AI to help you, but it's just going to be crap, because you always need the human in the loop. All AI is going to do for you is reduce the burden and the grunt. And so a lot of other legal tech is about reducing the grunt and the burden from menial tasks, right? And so what we have done is we've gone one step further. We're helping you reduce the burden and the grunt work from legal research. Yes, so it's a bit more cerebral than the other legal tech providers have out there. But at the same time, all we're doing is still only reducing the brunt grunt, sorry, and the hard work, the human strategic thinking and the analysis and the application of the rules that the research has identified as being relevant still has to be done by the human being. Because
Still has
don't
to be
forget, AI
received.
cannot do this for you because AI doesn't actually understand anything it's reading. So you can give it the rules and you can give it the relevant clauses of the insurance policy and it will have a go. But you remember, it doesn't understand anything it reads. So all it can do
Yeah.
is mimic. And when this is a novel factual scenario, there's nothing for it to mimic.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't do well at all. It
Mm.
cannot do well. And that's where the human being comes in, because the human being knows how to take the rules and the new factual scenario and apply the rules, and with their experience, work out what the likely answer is going to be.
Yeah, and thanks for that clarification, Lena. Now, here's something that really made me pause. You used the term legal triage. I've heard that word used in hospitals, not in law firms, but I get the idea of diagnosing issues early on. So, how does it work, Lena? And why is that early stage clarity so vital before the legal firestorm begins?
Well, I like to, when I am still a barrister, but I always like to start with the strategic. Uh, I like to set the strategy for the case right at the beginning.
Mhm.
And for anything, it doesn't matter whether it's a contract negotiation or whatever, you always have to have your strategy. And your strategy has to be based in part upon the risk analysis and the legal analysis. And so, but you can only do that if you know what the law is and what the relevant law is. If you want to do it properly, I know there are people out there who don't worry about the law and they just go out there and they negotiate or do whatever they do because they think that it's just about commercial realities. And maybe it is, maybe it is. Sometimes maybe it doesn't really matter and there are certain things, but it's just much better when your analysis is founded not just on commercial realities, but also on legal analysis.
Okay.
So what I like to do is I like to set the strategy. And in order to do that, I like to know what the law is and what the likely outcome of the case is. And so I use my research to identify, like I said, the
Yeah.
relevant cases, work out the likely answer, and apply the facts of
Mm-hmm.
the particular case to the principles, and then work it all out and then set the strategy that way, so that you're always coming from a great foundation,
Yeah.
a solid foundation from day one.
Mhm. It's identifying the key cases and principles early, and you're already shaping the strategy instead of scrambling later. It sounds like you're giving lawyers that same early warning system. And that's where the real value is, I guess, not just saving time, but avoiding costly missteps altogether, if I'm making any sense.
And
So,
what's so great about MiAI is that it will, because it goes through the entire database of of the
mhm,
cases that I think
yeah.
are critical in
Mhm.
any legal analysis, that and that database is kept up to date, or make sure we're making sure that the databases that we look at are kept up to date. Then you you just find cases that a human would not have the time or the capacity to unearth. Like in some of my research, it has unearthed cases for me from 1906 in the High Court,
Yeah.
and they're totally on point. I mean, like it's just amazing that no human would be able to go all the way.
I mean, it takes a lot of time.
And in my research before, I mean, these are issues that I come across in construction law all the time. But I didn't know there was a case from 1906 that was completely on point, but MiAI Law unearthed it for me.
Yeah, wow, so cool. So, how does my AI law support legal professionals in, say, clarifying facts and organizing evidence before they even show up to argue their case?
Well, because if you know what the relevant principles in the case are, what if you work out right from the beginning. This is how I do it.
Uh-huh.
When a client comes and sees me, I ask them what is the outcome that they're looking for, right? So
Mm.
then I say, what do you want out of this case, right? What is it you actually want? And then I work backwards from that. I look at their facts, and then I do the research. I work out what the causes of action they are, whether they have a case in contract, whether they have a case in negligence, whether there's a statutory cause of action, etc. I do all of my research. And then for each particular cause of action, there are elements, there are what you have to prove in order to make out your breach of contract. And
Yeah.
then when you look at what all your elements are, then you know what facts you need to prove each of these elements. And then from there, you work out what the evidence is.
Yes.
What the evidence is you need to collect. So that's how it goes. So whether you just need to always start from a solid foundation, you know what the client wants you to achieve. Some maybe in a defamation case, for example, all they want is an apology. So that would be a very different strategy to if they want heaps of money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you just have to know exactly what it is your client wants, and then you work backwards from there, take the instructions from them, or your solicitor does that, gets all the relevant information for you, and then you do the legal analysis and research to find out what the best causes of action for them are, work out how you're going to prove each of these causes of action, and then work out what the evidence is you need to be able to prove each of these causes of action to give the client what they want.
Yeah. So it's like building the case on bedrock instead of sand, starting from first principles and you know exactly which facts and evidence actually move the needle. Basically, you're helping them walk into the room with a clean, organized, and airtight narrative.
It's never airtight. It's never airtight because if it was airtight, then the case should have settled. Cases that go to court generally are because there's a bit of uncertainty for both sides. Or one person just feels, I just need to make a point. It's a matter of principle, etc. So it's never airtight. And sometimes along the process, you find you just don't have the evidence to make out your case, and then you have to settle and get out of it.
Yeah. Well, I've seen enough contracts in my time to know they can get really messy and risky. And when you're facing a dispute, every clause counts. How does my AI contract review feature help lawyers catch those hidden risks before they become legal headaches?
You mean at the contract negotiation stage, at the
Uh-huh.
drafting stage?
Uh-huh.
Very useful because I've had to negotiate a few contracts for myself,
Mm-hmm.
publishing contracts, etc. And so have I said this? I run it through MiAI Law, and then it identifies all the risks for me, and then it does it it will tell you what the risk, the legal risks are, what the commercial risks are, and it tells you why it's a risk and what authorities MiAI has relied upon to identify the risk, and then it tells you recommends what should be done to fix the clause, and then it provides you with an alternative wording for the clause. And it's all done from a neutral state. So MiAI Law is not doing it for particularly the owner or the contractor. In the case of a construction contract, it's doing it in a neutral way. So this week my in-house counsel and I have had to finalize all our user agreements for MiAI Law.
Okay.
And we had to do the standard terms and conditions for everyone. And then we also had to do a beta testing one for the beta testers. There are about 100 beta testers who are lined up to test our product. And so we had to have a special agreement for them because obviously we need confidentiality clauses and etc. because, the beta testing only runs for 2 weeks, but we needed a special clause. So clauses for that to particularly handle the beta testing situation. And I ran it, both agreements actually through MiAI Law, and it picked up. We have an audit feature where we are reading in all the defined terms, all the cross-referencing to make sure that everything is consistent and no ambiguities and circularities. And it picked up, it said that I was interchangeably using service and services. And right at the beginning, and that it was leading to ambiguity because right at the top, I had defined our service or the service as the service singular. But then as we were going on, because this contract we've been working on for a long time, sometimes I would use service, sometimes I would use services. And this is going to lead to problems. And so it highlighted similar other issues. You're saying user is this, just all the way through. And then it would highlight, this clause may not stand up, or it said this clause is, contract is generally fair, or whatever it is. It just goes through and it just analyzed the whole thing, and it just told me. So then CU, my in-house counsel, and I went through and then sorted out all our
Yeah. And that really resonates. I mean, it's spotting the red flags, catching the vague, and it's like having my AI law as a partner. It's like having a second set of eyes or expert eyes that never miss a beat, especially when the language gets messy, like the one you said, just the difference between using a singular, that's the singular version and the plural.
that's human error, right? I mean, that is human error because it's
Yes.
like you've forgotten that you had defined the thing as service
Hmm.
up, and ever so often you'd go services.
Yeah, yeah. And
I think like
uh-huh. And I always like to ask you this, Lena, especially with leaders building something new. What's the core belief behind my AI law? What's the principle that keeps your team focused, especially when you're solving problems like this, as complex and high stakes as, say, litigation?
I think everyone who works for my AI law has a real drive for excellence. And so everyone is a perfectionist. And so Arjun, who is our technical advisor, he
Mhm.
owns Fast Code, and I have subcontracted the whole development out to Fast Code because, well, he and his team is just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's not just a subcontractor. He also has a stake in us. But they're so brilliant and they're so smart that in order to motivate them, really, they just know that what we're doing is the world first, that no one else has solved this problem before. And when I was in London, I met with the Allen and Overy Fuse program, and I asked them if they had come across anybody else who had been able to solve this legal research problem from first principles. And they said that it was a use case that had been identified, but nobody had actually solved the problem. And so I motivate my team by telling them that we are a world first, and then I share with them all the positive feedback that we've been getting. And only a week ago, last Friday, I went and saw my old boss, the Honorable Michael Kirby, who was a judge of the High Court of Australia, but I worked for him when we were both on the Court of Appeal, New South Wales Court of Appeal. And I showed him our outputs. He wanted to talk about cases that he had sat on. And I showed him our structured case summary, and he just couldn't believe it. He said he was sitting there, he was looking at it, it had correctly summarized his particular judgment. It had correctly identified that he had agreed with the orders, but provided different reasoning, and everything was accurate. And he said, "This is bloody good." And then I showed him other outputs, and he said, "This is just wonderful. This is the way of the future. I'm so glad that an Australian is at the forefront of this."
Yeah.
And so I said, "I'm so proud of you." And then he said, and he got his, and I said to him, "Can I use these codes?" He goes, "Of course you can use these codes." So we fine tuned one, and then he said, because he actually said, "Oh, I'm just sitting here like a stunned mullet." And then I said to him, "Can I use all of this?" He goes, "Sure, you can use all of it." I said, "But should we just say that you're sitting here in stunned silence? Because instead of saying that you're sitting here like a stunned mullet." Yeah, so we fine tuned the quote, and it's been published on the website. So I tell my team, this is the kind of feedback that we're getting,
Yeah.
and and they know we were a world first, and they know the feedback we're getting and how excited people are, and they're perfectionists themselves. It's pretty funny because they accuse me of being a perfectionist, and they go, if you don't freeze your features later, we're never going to go to beta testing. And then so I said, I've frozen my features. Like 2 weeks ago I froze because all my algorithms are working, but then it took a lot to solve the cross-referencing because language models don't remember numbers. They can't remember numbers. So we've had to do a lot of special things, the trade secret, on how we have been able to accurately extract the pinpoint references and the accurate paragraph numbers for each
Yeah.
proposition. And so that took them, I think they've been working on that for 3 weeks, but now they've gotten it right. And so they accuse me of being a perfectionist and never being able to go beta, but then they've been like working really, really hard to solve this problem. So I think it's just everyone's drive and commitment to excellence, and how everyone is just very ethical. Arjun and I are just very honest, and we want to deliver a product that's honest, authentic, verifiable, evidence-based. There's no, we're the real deal.
Yes. And I was going to say that. Sounds like your North Star is making sure the tech doesn't just work fast, it works right with ethics, accuracy, and proof baked in, especially with an excellent development team that you mentioned helping you execute this world's first legal research AI that's legit.
I mean, we're the only one from first principles, and I'll just close with saying why it's really important for that we're doing it from first principles, because
Mm-hmm.
everyone else looks at secondary materials, whether
Yeah.
it's LexisNexis, Thomson Reuters, Harvey AI. They all look at secondary materials, which is fine if you have a case on point. If this what is happening now in the in
Mm-hmm.
the matter that you're researching has happened before, then you can easily go and find a case and say, oh look, this is what has happened in the past, and that is the answer. But
Yeah.
if you're dealing with a novel factual scenario and it has never happened before, then that old way of working or that other way of working is not going to give you an answer. It can't.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is that because we're working from first principles, we can
Yeah.
find all the relevant rules and apply it to the novel factual scenario to work out what the answer is. That is the difference.
Yes. And what I love about this is you're building something people actually want to rely on. So, this is what happens when legal expertise meets real tech purpose. So, thank you so much again, Lena, for joining me here on X-Rays. Every time you're here, I feel like we fast forwarded 10 years into the future of law. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Miles.
Thanks. Thanks everyone for staying with us as Lena gave us another bunch of insights about My AI Law that really thinks like a lawyer. Head over to myai.law to research faster and navigate litigation with more precision. And that's it for this episode of X-Raised. Until our next episode with Lena, this has been your host, Miles. Stay focused and inspired with X-Raised.